Hey, it's me, Matt, from the WP Minute, of course, the publisher of the Agency Action podcast. I'm going to fill in today because I want to do sort of a monologue about agency life heading into 2026, some of the things we're working on in the WP Minute that you might be interested in, both in audio and video. So if you're watching, hey, how are you? If you're listening, hey, how are you? It's always great to have podcast listeners who love audio. First and foremost, thanks for being a listener. The Agency Action podcast was something that I started to think about, halfway through last year. And since I'm not an agency owner any longer, ran an agency for a decade. The agency still runs. My dad still runs it as a team. But I wanted to have these like boots on the ground, people who are doing this every day, like rolling up their sleeves, agency conversations that I'm just not living. Now, my full-time job is at Gravity Forms, so I do talk to a lot of agencies for sure, because primary customer of Gravity Forms, and I do talk to folks like you every day. I'm just not doing the quotes anymore. I'm not doing the project management. I'm not selling myself and putting myself out there for clients to sign. However, Kurt and Toby do that every day. It's their livelihood. And I was looking for two co-hosts to have these more honest and real conversations. Sure, I could like interview people, which I do and we do at the WP Minute. And I could have conversations from agency owners, but I really wanted like two folks in the room who are living and breathing it, having the real life, transparent conversations, so that you can benefit from like being the person in the room. That's sort of like the genesis of Agency Action. And we sort of wrestled with the name for a little while. I'm not even remembering what we called it. I think it was Whose WordPress Agency Is It Anyway? We had some different ideas for that at the time, like format and stuff. But I really do feel like Kurt and Toby have hit a pretty good stride. I mean, you tell me, send me an email, Matt at the WP Minute, or go to the contact form on the WP Minute and let me know. Let us know what kind of content you're looking for as an Agency Action listener. But we're hoping now, like these stories that they share, I feel like they've gotten to a good rhythm of hitting a particular topic, going deep on it, and then most importantly, sharing their experiences of like how they've dealt with XYZ topic, how they've managed it, overcome it, or maybe not even faced it at all. And like the other one gets to ask like, oh, like how did you get through that? Or what did you think about when that happened? Or like when you leveled up your business, that kind of thing. So that's Agency Action. I should say, like Toby and Kurt, they're freely donating their time to this podcast. So do support them with their businesses. I always say, like in agency world, there's plenty of room and opportunity to work with other agencies or other freelancers working with other freelancers and so on. Do support them in the work that they do, because they're showing up every week to, give you their best and to be as, open and transparent as possible, right? It's not an easy thing. I do really Kurt had a lot of podcasting experience. I mean, if you follow Kurt, you know that he shows up on a lot of other podcasts. He has his own podcast. He does podcasts for Lifter LMS. He does podcasts for WP Tonic. And I think he's a professional in that space. And I might be biased, but I do feel like in each show that he shows up, he's that person, right? He's the person that you want for that show and that topic. And I think he does it like really good here at the Agency Action Show. And Toby was, what I'm going to say this with air quotes, that if you're just listening, was just the guy doing like SEO and WordPress sites. And when I approached him, he was just like, I don't know if like, I've always wanted to do a podcast, but I don't know if like I can do this, if this is the right way. And to see this not a rebound, but like to see this like growth of like how he has become like that kind of leader in this role to share his knowledge with you is fantastic. So definitely go and support them at their businesses, follow them on social. I know Toby's always doing stuff on LinkedIn, so is Kurt on LinkedIn, and definitely give them a tip of the hat because they do a fantastic job. The other stuff that we have coming down the pipe. So if you don't already know, we have the Hosting Decoded course, how to choose the best WordPress host for your business, for your agency. And this is a free course brought to you by our sponsors, our lovely sponsors. You register for this course at the wpminute.com/courses. This is taught by Eric Karkovac, who's our managing editor here at the WP Minute. 30 years of webmaster experience. He's put this course together, along with me, and putting this, I guess, framework around how to look at hosting as like a true partnership, how to evaluate like a host on that like partnership level. Who's the best fit for your business? Of these web hosts, which align best with your projects and your customer? How do you be transparent with your customer to let them know, hey, we're not the web host here. We might be the middleman who is helping you, interface with their support and our support and your website, and we manage all of that stuff. We talk about that transparency and really how to look at this stuff as not something that you should be hiding from the customer, something that you should be really transparent about, and ultimately like increasing that trust, that brand trust with your customer, and then fortifying partnerships on the other side of that with the web hosting companies that you partner with. So it's not a course where we're saying like, hey, this is the host that you should work with. We're not talking about, disk storage or bandwidth or PHP workers. We're talking about like the business level of an agency and freelancer and choosing that right host. Our next course coming out is squarely for agencies in two different ways. So it's going to be about scoping WordPress projects. And again, we're not going through like, here's the plugins you should use. And if you're building a WooCommerce site, like these are the plugins you should be using. Or if you're using a marketing, it's not about that technical side of things. It's about how you should think of approaching WordPress at scale, whatever scale means. Scale could mean for a small brochure website and what it means to just like keep that thing running and how to level that up as that person builds his or her business. Or it could be at literal scale where it's an enterprise and you're thinking, okay, if I'm building a project like this, quoting a project like this, what resources go into that kind of project? Again, not just about how big of a server do we need, but how do we think about that as an agency? How do we think about budget, timeline, communication, and all that stuff? So it's great for people who want to level up that side of their knowledge as a freelancer and as an agency owner. It's also great for an agency or a freelancer to say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, you have questions about building a WordPress website. Maybe you look at my proposal and you say, oh boy, $5,000 to do all this, like that seems like a lot of money. Getting your average WordPress website buyer into this course is also highly recommended because, again, we're not pointing to any which way to build the site. We're not pointing to a particular agency or freelancer. What we're saying is these are the critical thinking points that is going to make WordPress be the best that it can be, depending on like what kind of project you're building. So I would also say that if you are somebody who goes, I kind of know it all, you can still recommend your own customers or your own team. Like if you're hiring people to join the team, this is a great course to get them to understand what it's like to build a great project. So look for that, the wpminute.com/courses. Make sure you're on the newsletter because that's how you're going to stay informed about this. And also you can join the WP Minute Slack channel for free. Hey, we love a donation if you want to help us keep the lights on. But you can also join for free. You can just register for any of the free courses on the website. And when you log into the WP Minute, there'll be a call to action button that says, hey, join Slack here. And you can click that button and join Slack and get into the room with other WordPress professionals who are taking these courses, but also who are very interested in growing their business and getting WordPress information and talking about it and sharing these different wins and losses and like what's happening in the world of WordPress, especially in the context of what do we do about AI? And that's one of the things I want to talk about here in a moment. The last thing that I want to talk about for the agency owner is we do have a new way of getting some value out of the WP Minute, right? So we have our Slack membership. If you want to pay and join and help support us, It's awesome. You get some free perks like getting into any kind of private membership meetings that we do, but also you can get some ads in our newsletter. Check that out, $79. We have sponsorship for agencies and product companies who also want to get the word out about their brand and business. There's different levels there. You can check that out on the site as well. But we also are going to start launching a in-person, air quotes again for those of you just listening, an in-person cohort of agency owners who just want that accountability, some kind of like kickoff to say, I've got, it's the start of the year, I've got these plans, I've got these goals, I want to meet with people, like-minded people, on an ongoing basis to just like keep that thing going, right? Like mastermindy, but I'm kind of done with that term. It's really about just like accountability. Hey, we're all here. Jack, you said you were going to launch this thing last week. It's a week has gone by. Did you do what you thought you were going to do? Yes, no. What was the roadblock, and can we help with that roadblock, right? You can apply to this right now. It's sort of taking shape. Go to thewpminute.com/accountability intake, accountability-intake. It's the worst URL I could have picked, but I'll link it up wherever you're listening to this. Accountability-intake, thewpminute.com, accountability-intake. And you can fill out that form. I'm going through them. I have like about a dozen of them that have come through so far. Really looking for the right fit for this initial phase. It will be paid. It'll be short money for the 6 weeks, but it is paid because it does show that folks do want to join this stuff, and it does help me pay for folks that help, run this program internally. Okay, let's get to the discussion of today's episode. Pontificate on this idea, and you let me know how you feel about this. We're at this point where about a year ago, I was really skeptical on like how good AI and the output of code and design and web development and thought logic and creativity and research. I'm still cautiously optimistic. I am not, I still don't know if there are any true benefits to humanity at the end of the day if we're adopting this stuff or really investing in this stuff. The problem that I see is I don't know if the market is going to like let it go at this point. Like it's not going to let it go at this point. And AI will be a cog in the internet forever now at this point. But when I compare like what I could do with AI to what I'm doing with AI today, and everybody's hype about Claude Code, as am I, it does feel like it just does a really damn good job at coding things. Hold your thoughts about like the code quality and output, but it is knocking things out of the park for me in terms of vanilla JavaScript apps, the WordPress plugin development, certain like marketing logic, like research and running reports and building plans. And it's really starting to feel a lot more agentic, but there is like this thing where I still don't trust it 100%. And of course, like the code quality and things like that can be argued. I would say there's, obviously I'm not a scientist here, right? Like I'm not a data scientist, I'm not an AI scientist, I'm not a physics scientist. I do think though, as CPU power gets faster and more powerful, code quality matters less. And I know somebody out there is flipping a table, but I think for like 98% of the stuff, like a website, even a mobile app or some kind of other like native web app, like a lot of that stuff, a lot of the bruises and the gaps in code can be smoothed over with just faster compute. I know it's a steroid, but I think it's just a reality, right? Like when you just think about the size of like chips in the iPhone and how fast and how powerful they are compared to any other like legacy compute, it's pretty astonishing. And you think about like, okay, like if these things just get infinitely more powerful, does code quality really matter up until the point where you need to go like debug it? And of course, like for security. And I'm not here to argue that, but what I am getting to is the difference of output from a year ago is quite, like, it's tangible. I can see it in the stuff that I'm developing. I can see it in not only like the output, but in the speed of how these things get done. I mean, I was all in on Replit a year ago because it was a contained environment, and it had the database, it had the hosting, the agent was really good in terms of like going back and forth and iterating with it, and all these other platforms where it felt like really sparse. But Claude Code in a terminal now, for all that stuff that I do, it's just blowing it out of the water. I mean, yeah, I still got to go set up hosting. I mean, I don't want to get into it in this episode, but Cloudflare is like has some really cool services that are really fast and really affordable and fairly user-friendly. So I don't want to get down the path of like the real technical stuff, but like I'm able to build a whole plugin. I built a new podcast plugin called Podloom. You can find it at podloomplugin.com if you're a Transistor podcast user like I am, or just any podcast host with an RSS feed, and you want to display your podcast episodes on your WordPress site with some other fancy bells and whistles, check out Podloom. But I mean, I'm running that with Claude 4.5, and I am constantly hitting it with check for performance gaps, check for security issues, check for, proper WordPress development and dependencies. I am taking other plugins and comparing how they've done either like caching or security or other optimization and saying like, compare it to that plugin. What do you think? Run me a report. As a power user, as somebody who knows business, who knows marketing, who knows customer success, and just a little bit of development, like there's these 4 pillars that I'm standing on now, being able to develop these plugins and these other services and going, wow, the game has flipped. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that. In fact, I still don't like to hear that you can say, well, you don't need an engineer anymore. Well, I think you do. But I think there's a level there's a certain tier that goes away. You could say that a tier goes away, like the entry level, maybe junior level goes away. But I also think that they too, if they invest in their own experiences and their own knowledge through AI, they can level up. But what does that mean for the future? Like I really start to think about how WordPress evolved. And I mean, if you've been in it as long as I have, you go back to like Page Lines and Site Origin. I think those are 2 separate companies. Avada, and then you think about the evolution of like page builders, like Beaver Builder, then Elementor, and then Gutenberg, and now there's a bunch of different like page builders that are out there doing things different ways. I mean, the whole theme forest era where people were just buying themes for what they did, real estate, business directory, and you were just buying these bundled themes and kind of like building on top of that, and you had this whole like workforce of people that were buying $79 themes and with all this bundled logic and just like building solutions off of that. And all of this stuff was about getting it done faster. Again, another phrase I know a lot of purists don't like to hear, but that's just like the nature of it all. Where I'm seeing this stuff excel is, well, we're getting things done faster. Is it the best? Yes or no. Is it the right way? Yes or no. Like, you now have to walk those paths of understanding, like, what I'm building here, is this the best for my customer? Is this the best for my business? Is it secure? Is it scalable? These are all the things you get to answer, but you are getting a much faster head start. Just as fast as you could think about building a small business website with a Cadence theme, with a StudioPress theme, and you're like, look how fast I built this. Now I just operate on that site, and I change the colors, I change the branding, the logos, and the content. We're doing this with bigger chunks of software, maybe even WordPress soon enough. So where does that leave the agency owner? And here's the only thing I can think of right now, and that is doing the unscalable things, right? Like, we're doing all this stuff so we can move faster and to scale the business faster. And by all this stuff, I mean, like, yeah, maybe you're adopting AI. Maybe you're productizing your stuff now because you're like, screw it. I don't even want to do custom anymore because it just pulls me in too many directions. Now I want to have more of like I'm the person who does nonprofit websites for sports leagues, or I only do veterinary school websites, or like whatever your like niche is. And maybe those are the things that like AI is helping and other automation tools are helping. But how are you going to win that customer? Because now if everyone's doing it, what's the thing that people are not doing? And my advice right now, and I'd love to hear other people's thoughts, and I'd love to hear Toby and Kurt talk about this stuff, is to do the unscalable thing. And that is to be more human and more connected to each and every customer. And it's not just like, oh yeah, I give you your monthly report of how many plugins we updated, what your stats are, and all that stuff. But it's about, hey, your business is a part of my business now. Which means we have to really align in the beginning. So you might think, oh my God, like I get all these people, they have all these businesses. Well, this is where things start to shift, where agencies become much more part of the business because our tooling is getting more efficient, our workflows are getting more efficient, and now everyone's doing it. We stand out by connecting with that individual or that team a lot deeper. I don't know what that translates to just yet. But I do know is like people are going to want to connect with you and be more, they want you to be more transparent. They're probably going to they're going to give more trust to you, and they'll probably be a stickier customer. And you might not be able to charge for the things you used to charge for, but you could charge for, the knowledge of the industry that you're in, the level of commitment you have to the project and how you're, hitting the milestones or the deliverables that they're asking for. Like that stuff is going to change. And I would just say being more human, right? Not just throwing people to a process, to a project manager, and then you get these 3 checkpoints and you're out. The first thing I want to lead to from like the marketing person is like, it's a membership. Like you're selling a membership to your customers. I don't want to say it's that in like this quirky kind of lingo-y kind of way, but it kind of is, it kind of is where it's like a professional group of people and you support all of these people and maybe you're connecting your customers with your customers. Like maybe that's a thing. It's something to think about. So the only phrase I have right now in light of, or in the lens of AI, is doing the unscalable thing. And I've shared some of my thoughts with you just now of what I think that means. I would love to hear from you. Leave a comment below where you're watching this. Send me an email, Matt@the WP Minute. Don't forget to say thanks to Kurt and Toby who show up on the Agency Action podcast. If you want to stay connected to all things WordPress, thewpminute.com/subscribe. Look out for those courses. You want to be in a cohort of other agencies and freelancers who are looking for that kind of level of accountability. thewpminute.com/accountability-intake. wpminute.com/accountability-intake. I promise I'll never make another URL like that again, but that's what it's like running a media company as a part-time job here at the WP Minute. All right, see you in the next episode. Thanks for letting me butt into the Agency Action podcast.